everyone, and welcome back to the Heal with Kat podcast. My name is Kat. I am your host, and this week we are having a very fun conversation. Lynnsey Robinson, certified hypnotherapist and intuitive guide, joins me on the podcast to talk about some of my favorite topics. Kind of ancestral in nature, not really, maybe. I guess you could pull a through line through them. We are talking hypnosis, past life regression, in between lives. We are both sharing some very vulnerable stories of past lives that we have discovered about ourselves and how they're affecting us today. We do not hold back. We don't. We just put everything out there. We even share things with each other that we've never shared with anyone else before. So this is a really juicy episode, but it's also really filled with so much wisdom and knowledge. And I really want to work with Lynnsey after chatting with her. And we will be having her back on the podcast because it is rare that we have somebody that comes on the podcast that gets such an open invitation to come back. She is just that amazing. So I'll leave it there. I'll leave the mystery for you to tap into over the next hour. Enjoy this episode. And if you love it, don't forget to comment below and tell me what you took away from it, or subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget that every week I enter your name in to win a free ancestral reading with me. All you have to do is screenshot your review, send it to me on my Instagram DMs, and I will contact you on Instagram if you win. Thank you so much for being here, being a part of the community, and supporting the Heal with Kat podcast as we move forward. All right, guys, enjoy this week's episode. I know I did. Everybody, please help me welcome Lynnsey Robinson, certified hypnotherapist and intuitive guide to the Heal with Kat podcast. Lynnsey, thank you for being here. I was just telling you, I've never had a hypnotherapist on the podcast before. I have a little bit of experience with it, and I love that you've got this intuitive flair because we can totally speak to that. But I'm just so excited to have you here.
I'm very excited as well. It's going to be a really fun combo, I think.
How did you get into the work that you're doing? And I would also be curious to add on to that. How did you find the intersection between hypnotherapy and then your intuitive gifts?
Okay. Well, okay. This is going to take the whole episode. Hopefully not.
It's okay.
Well, I got into this work because even as a kid, I think you and I don't know you, but I know that you were a weirdo as a kid, just like me. And just like some of the best people I know, just different. I've definitely been different. And I didn't really like it, as a kid, but as I've got older, I'm like, yeah, I'm weird. Please let me wave that flag as much as possible. And I'm hopefully teaching my kids to do that too. But I was always in the cemetery, putting my hand on the tombstones and trying to intuit how they died. And yeah, I was just that kid. I had Ouija boards. Say what you want about a Ouija board. I love them. I don't use them anymore. They've always fascinated me. Just the idea that wait a minute, we can just talk to what? And luckily I've had decent experiences. My mom always had them when I was growing up, so I had that influence. But yeah, I was just always into the spiritual side of humanity and what makes us more than just skin and bones walking around. But I didn't really know how to translate that. As a kid, I wanted to be a ghost hunter. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to hunt some ghosts, and it's being great. And then it kind of translated as I got older into college years. I started studying criminology, forensic psychology, serial killers, because to me, that was what makes your brain different than my brain? What makes us so different and unique? And realized very quickly I was not cut out for criminology or forensic psychology. I just, too much death, too much darkness, too much heavy. Props to anyone who can do it. I cannot do it. So around that same time, my sister gave me a book called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton.
That's one of my favorite books. I've read it 3 times.
I'm not surprised. That is the reason I'm sitting here talking to you today, 100%. I didn't know what a hypnotherapist was. I was 19. It was 2004. And I was like, what the heck is this book? What is going on? But it lit something up in me that I didn't know was missing. That was the piece that I was missing. And I had this huge, what I know now was this huge awakening. Within a year of reading that book, I flew to LA and moved there by myself, to the surprise of my entire family. Growing up in a small town in Michigan, they were like, what do you think you're doing? And when are you coming back? Oh, I'm not. Okay. By yourself? Yes, by myself. Because I wanted to move there and go to the Michael Newton Institute and study and do past life, in between life, future life for the rest of my life. That's what I wanted to do. Now, of course, when you get to LA, you realize it's very, very expensive and you have to get a job immediately, like yesterday. So I got a job, forgot about hypnotherapy because I was just trying to survive. And I was not going to be one of those people that moved back after 2 months because it didn't work out. That's my Aries coming out and my Sagittarius rising. A lot of fire, but I definitely just put it on the back burner and did what I had to do. I ended up about 8 years later. Well, 8 years later, I got married. I met my husband in that time and we had a baby. And then I was like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I'm 27 at this point. It's like, better late than never. But I was like, what do I want to do? What would make me happy? And I've never really considered that before. And I think that's such an easy question that we don't ask. Like, what would make me happy? What do I want to do? And then hypnotherapy came screaming back. And it lit my body up. And I got so excited and electric. And I was very enthusiastic about it. And then the voice right after the thought was, well, you have a kid now, so you should probably just go get a job. You should probably do the safe thing. You're a mom. You have to be responsible and pull your own weight in this house, you know? And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. Probably should. And then my shoulders dropped and I got this familiar feeling of like logic kicking in. And then I heard a voice that was like a whisper, but it was there. And it was like, but why not? But why not? Why can't you? Come on. What if you just made a call? And I was like, yeah, you know what? Why not? Because I'm sure Michael Newton, when he was going for his hypnotherapy after he got his psychology degree, he was a psychologist and he had to pivot from science to spirituality because that's where it was leading him. I can imagine he would have had so many like of those moments of like, should I do this? Should I just turn back and do the safe thing or whatever? Anyone who's ever done anything cool has had to ask themselves these kinds of questions. And so I was like, you know what? I am going to research. And then I researched and I found the institute that I was destined to study at down the street from where I would have gone back to work, by the way. Whoa. LA is not a small place. Okay. So to know that that is the place I went to on the same road in LA that I would have went back to work after maternity leave is wild to me. Ended up working there after I graduated. And here's the kicker, if I may. So the kicker is after I graduated in 2013, I worked at the Institute helping distance education students. And I looked my name up in the database, as you do, of course. And I had two profiles, one for my student profile that I had started in 2012 and one in 2005 when I was still living in Michigan. I had filled out an application for the same institute and just never picked up the phone when they called me, you know? Oh my God. They had my old address. They had my old phone number. And that just was my guides and my higher self and my soul knows that it needs to kick me in the teeth in order for me to like have zero doubt about it. And that is something, if I ever doubted that I should be a hypnotherapist, that was one of the things that's like, no, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I wanted this since 2005 and I totally forgot that I mean, that's not something you remember. I didn't even remember that phone number at all. And it was mine. But yeah, so I am here now helping mostly women, but I really love to help anyone get back into their empowerment, learn their soul's journey, and really connect with that part of them that makes them more than human and extremely powerful. And it's really fun. Now, I can't remember what your second question was.
My question was, how did becoming an intuitive really like play a part in the hypnotherapy piece? I mean, I feel like we kind of got into it. Just it sounds like you were mentioning that Michael Newton and being at the Institute kind of opened this permission for you to really embody your true self. That intuitive part.
Yes and no. When I came into the institute I studied, which by the way was not the Michael Newton Institute, he was way north in California, and I was like more in the LA area. So this was in Tarzana, but shout out to HMI. It's a fantastic school. If anybody's thinking about hypnotherapy, there's no other place, in my opinion, that you should go. But I had walked into HMI with the belief that once you opened that door, you would not be able to close it. And that was from my father. He is extremely, extremely empathic, extremely intuitive. He hates it. And he can't really go in public because he feels all of it. And he's the biggest hermit you could ever imagine. But he warned me pretty much before I moved to LA, like, don't open that door. Don't do it. Because once you do, you can't close it. And then you're basically a victim to it your whole life. And so that's what I was walking into when I started learning hypnotherapy. And thank God I stuck with it because that's terrifying. Nobody wants to know that. And it took me a minute to really dissect that and to unravel that from my psyche. But it was a belief I had for a long time. So it's still the reason I have hesitancy. I mean, just before we hit record, you're like, what should we call you? I'm like, I don't know. It's a kid. It's something I'm growing into embracing. And whether I'm opening doors or not, I think that once you own your own sovereignty and once you kind of feel that empowerment, it's not scary anymore. It's just part of who you are. And so I'm still getting better at embracing that and letting it happen. It's happening anyway, and it's for the highest good of me and my clients always. So it doesn't have to be something to be scared of. And that's what I'm growing into, kind of.
I love that. I was just having a conversation with a friend about how spirituality is looking very different for us these days. It's looking more like spirituality is less of the goal, and it's more like our intuition is just this natural part of us that we're coming home to. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be, for us and for myself, it doesn't have to be this like big, journey up the mountain. It's really coming down the mountain and sitting with ourselves and being like, oh, this is who I am. And I've been doing so many things to run away from it.
Isn't that that's such a good metaphor, because isn't that pretty much all of healing? We think it's going to be this huge climb up the mountain when most of the healing is remembering who you were, who you are. And it's way, now I wouldn't say easier, but it's much more of a simple concept than we think it is, which is probably why we delay it so long, because we're afraid of what it might feel like. But yeah, it always works out better than we think anyway.
Well, and I think for people in our work where we're really drawing people, I do family constellation therapy, and I'm sure with your work
I'm learning that next, Kat. I swear. That is on my next to-do list.
Oh,
I'm obsessed with it. That and astrocartography are two of like the most fun things that I can think of.
I mean, being in the field, standing on those papers, for me, I'm just like, even this morning, I was working on a few things and I was like, damn, I really want to get into the field. I just miss being in that energy field where I just feel like totally connected to myself, But
Yeah.
in our work, we're helping people go through things. We're not waiting on the other side already. We're drawing people through it. And so, yeah, there's just so much to be said for us going through things ourselves too. And I know that you had this natural calling to hypnotherapy and you read Michael Newton's book, which I love so much. But when did you realize that hypnotherapy would be as powerful and transformative as you had hoped it would be for yourself?
Oh, that's a good one. I noticed it before I ever saw my first client, because when you're studying, you're practicing on your other students, you're practicing on yourself, and you're scared to even try it on anyone. But luckily, it is such potent work that I saw the evidence way before I ever saw a client. Not to say I wasn't still scared. I was scared to see my first client, as everyone should be, I think. But I had so much faith in it and so much confidence in it that helped me so much. And again, just in owning my own powers. I think if you had asked me before hypnotherapy if I thought everyone was psychic, I would like to think that I'd say yes, but I don't know that I really believed it. I think I thought it was something that people were just born with. But now I know it's a muscle we all have, whether or not you work it out. I don't have a six pack, but I could if I tried. I'm sure. I'm sure I could.
I use too.
Yeah, I could. It's whatever muscle that you focus on and whatever talent or gift that you have that you really want to put your energy into, that really holds it. So yeah, I would say my intuitive abilities, my confidence in myself to know that I could even do these things. And yeah, I think that's probably the most exciting thing that's shown up is after I did the past life regression certification. In fact, this is interesting. And this goes off, I think, what my dad had told me. I have a scar. I don't know if you can see it in the middle of my forehead, right where my third eye, that looks like a closed eye. I got it when I was 5. I hit my head, had stitches, whatever. My brothers called me Scarface, whatever. I have 4 brothers and they're brothers, brothers in the 90s. What are you going to do? But, so I had this scar my whole life. And then when I went to do the past life regression certification, we were doing this one meditation that was like, let's go meet your council of elders. And I was like, yes, let's do that. And so the whole class is like in their comfy position. We're doing the hypnotic induction, and we hadn't even gotten to the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And I felt these fingertips or like a curtain or a feather brush across my forehead. And I opened my eyes because it was like jolting. And I'm like, who just walked by me? We're supposed to be in a safe space, right? Like, there's not a bathroom break time. I'm looking around and nobody's moved. Everybody's in the same position. There's nobody else there. And I was like, my third eye just opened. I just knew. My third eye just opened. I had this vision of my dad saying, don't open that door because once you open it, and I was like, whatever, it's fine. After that weekend, I saw sparks. I still do. I see sparks for energy. I see orbs for like spirits. And then I've only ever once seen what I can only assume was like a spiritual portal to the afterlife or to the spirit realm or whatever. And I never ever want to see that one again, because the one time I did see it, I was in class and our instructor was teaching us about habit control or family systems or something. And it was on a Friday, and we came back to school on Monday and learned that he had passed over the weekend. And I was like, that's what that was. Holy crap. Cause it was right next to him. It was like this big, it was like an inch tall. And it was like if someone was holding an inch mirror, like a square mirror, and just flicking it so you can like see the reflection. That's what it looked like right next to him on the whiteboard. And I was like, what the heck is that? 2 days later, he passed. So please don't show me that again, guides, angels, ancestors. I don't want to see that. Thank you.
So you're the only other person in my entire life who I'm going to tell this to.
Oh my God, yes, let's do it. And everybody listening. That's okay.
And everybody listening. Well, I've had no one to talk about this with because I was so confused by it. I see sparks and I see orbs in different colors, and I've never known what they mean, but they only show up when I'm doing mediumship, or they used to show up a lot when I first started dating my fiance, or like I'll see them on vacation sometimes when like I'm really relaxed, but they're blue or yellow or pink or purple. Actually, that's not true. I just saw one yesterday in the kitchen, but usually when I'm doing mediumship for my clients, I see sparks and I'm like, what is that? And then one time I was getting a reading done with my, I see two women specifically. One is my friend Julie. The other one is this woman named Mickey Jacobs, who's incredible. I recommend her to everyone. I'm actually having her on the podcast soon. And she was channeling my guardian angel. And we were talking about my health issues because I've been going through some health stuff. And I saw out of the corner of my eye, like in my office, this like black, like it was not an orb. It was like more angular and it looked like wings. And it just like, I blinked my eyes twice and I saw it like flash. And then I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what was that? And then I told her and she was like, your guardian angels like can come visit you in different forms and shapes. Okay, wait, I need to talk about this.
Let's talk about it.
Tell me what you've learned about this. And then we'll get into the hypnotherapy stuff. But
well, at first I didn't know what, like I didn't know what any of it was. And I thought to myself, well, if I don't know, what am I going to do? I'm going to ask. So next time I saw the sparks, I was like, what is this? What does this feel like? Does this feel like just energy? Does it feel like emotion? Does it feel like a person? And I knew it didn't. When I see like sparkler sparks, that's just energy. Like if you're really excited and you're like, let's say I'm talking to a client and they're just like so excited about something, I will usually see the energy of what they're talking about, which is super cool. And then I always tell them like, oh, you are really excited about this. I just saw, none of them have called the psych ward on me yet, but, when I see like the orb, I'm like, okay, what does this feel like? That definitely to me feels more like a presence than just energy.
Yeah.
Blast. So, I've never seen shapes. It's always just been like circles, which I guess is a shape, but only once did I see like a black filled one. And, you know, we have all these ideas of like what black means, and it didn't feel negative, but if anyone were to tell me like, oh, it was black, I'd be like, what? Is that like a dark energy? Which I don't know. I don't want to discount the idea that there is dark energy. I've just closed myself off to all that negative stuff, that I just don't experience that. Not to say people don't, but I just haven't. So to me, the black one is just like a different type, but it's never ever to me felt dark. It's always just felt like a presence. And they're usually blue or like white. And then, you know, like I said, the portal was please no, please never again. I don't like that one.
Me. Please, I never want to see that again.
No,
I never want to see that in general. Not again.
I don't need a portal. Thank you. Unless you're going to let me step through and back, you know, if it's going to a fairy realm, I'll do that. I'm not.
Well, when I saw that black shape, when she was talking about my guardian angel, I actually felt overcome with shock. And what I can only describe as, I was raised Catholic. I don't really subscribe to religion anymore. Obviously, I wouldn't even be accepted in the church for what I do. But it was that religious concept of the fear of God, but it's more like the awe of God. It was like,
when you said shock, I was going to say awe.
Yeah, like
right
it was
after.
Like, it wasn't scary. I was just like, oh my God. I was like overwhelmed with this feeling. And then my ego was like, you're making it up. You're full of shit. Blah, blah. It's like, I probably am. I don't know what's going on. But the visceral feeling in my body was like, this is so powerful. I'm actually afraid of how powerful it really is. Like I'm humbled by it. Yeah.
That completely makes sense. Yeah, I completely understand that feeling.
Yeah.
That's where the word awesome comes from, is that like we've diluted it so much, but it's supposed to mean like awesome. Like I am in awe. I can't like bring my jaw off the floor. So yeah, that definitely would make sense if that was what was coming through.
Well, is it Michael Newton's book, Journey of Souls, where he talks about how there's different level guides and what color they are? And so, okay.
Well, I think, okay, so there's Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. And I read Destiny first. I know I said Journey, but I've read them both. But Destiny was the second book, and I read that first. And then I went back and read Journey. So they both are interchangeable to me. I don't know which one it's in.
One of them. I've read both of them, but
they do talk about that.
Yeah. And so when I started seeing yellow and blue and white, I was like, oh, I wonder if these are my guides at the level that they are as a guide. And the first guide I ever started working with was a new guide. I knew about a past life we had together and all of that. So it was just interesting to kind of see that in my orbit. And I remember as a kid, I used to sit in my bed. I have a huge devotion to Mother Mary, if you can't tell.
Love that.
And the divine feminine for me is like everything. And I remember sitting in bed as a kid feeling a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of loneliness and depression, and praying to her and just being like, please let me see you. Like, I want to see your body. I want to see that I'm not alone. Like, I needed to see it. So now being an adult and being fully fledged in this work, I'm like, I feel so gifted and like lucky that like I get to be able to, not gifted, like it's a gift that I get to see these beings. Anyways, oh my God, we totally got off on a tangent, but I
don't care.
I've never had anyone to talk to.
I want to live here.
Yeah, I want to live here too. No, but I just really appreciate you being so open about that, because I've never had anyone to talk to about that before. People think I'm crazy.
Ask me the last time I brought that up on a podcast, and I honestly don't think I ever have. I know I've talked about it briefly on my own podcast, but there's definitely a reason I brought it up today. And I think it's so we can both just share it.
I love it. Did you read Brian Weiss's books too?
Yes, I have his books. Love Brian Weiss. Yeah. I have them all. I have so many. I have like Your Child Has Been Here Before, and like all of these, like Evidence of Reincarnation, like all the books. I have them all.
So a client yesterday.
Is this another synchronicity you're about to give me right now?
Yeah. Okay. Guys, I love this. I love this so much. Okay. So yesterday I had a client. We were working on Holocaust trauma with her ancestral lineage.
Stop. You have to stop talking. Dude. Okay. I'm going to tell you my thing after you tell me your thing. This is getting actually ridiculous.
I love that. So we're working on love being transactional, and we're working on the similar themes between the Holocaust, people being used as currency and transaction for meeting a quota, for, just kind of all that stuff. Anyway, she tells me, well, I read this book that you recommended. And I was like, I didn't recommend you a book. And she's like, yeah, or somebody else did, she said. And it's called I've Been Here Before. And it's about, I just literally opened the book today. I just finished Paper Palace. So I'm starting this book today. But it's about a woman who hypnotizes, or maybe she pulls people into regressions who have no DNA or physical ancestral connection to the Holocaust, and yet are recalling stories of what happened as they're reincarnated into new lives. And I'm like literally about to start it today.
Oh my, well, I got one to add to your list, because that's literally my story. So oh gosh, you guys, I promise we're going to get, if this isn't their favorite episode ever, because this is the stuff I would want to listen to on the podcast.
Me too. We could get into the logistics, but I would rather talk about this.
So needless to say, past life regression and life between life are my two absolute favorite things to do. But like I said, I got the certification, but before I got the certification for past life, I was still doing the work of like habit control, smoking cessation, weight control. I got to get all of this training. And during that, you're allowed to have a mentor to go get like 3 sessions. And I chose all of my 3 to be past life regression. And I was like, she goes, do you have any concerns about this? And I'd only ever done 1 before, which is a pretty crazy story if we have like a part 2 or whatever. But just for the sake of this story, I was like, yeah, I do. Like, what if I was like a Nazi or something? And she's like, what if you were? What if you were just taking orders? What if you what if we were all of it? And now that I've like been in this for so long, like I definitely know that we have been all of it. If you've been here before, you've been all of it. But okay, so that was in like 2012. In 2013 or 14, I had this channeler friend that I went to see sometimes because she's just absolutely fabulous. And she answered so many questions that I had, but I wanted to know, because again, I had one son at the time. I have three now, but at the time I had one. And I was like, what is our connection? Can you tell us our most recent past life? And first, she had already told me that his most recent past life, he transmuted the darkness. He was a bringer of light and he transmuted the darkness. And his life ended when he was like 7. And he was like 1 at this time. So I was like, oh, my baby. And I was like, so like, what was our past life like, you know? And she was like, let me check in with your guides because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you. It may affect your relationship in this life. And I was like, oh, what? Why? Like, what do you mean? And she didn't give me all of it, but what she did say, it was during the time of the Holocaust, and he was a prisoner. And I gathered that I was one of the soldiers that facilitated his demise. So first of all, horrible. Second of all, how beautiful that now I get to take care of that little baby. I just saw sparks. Oh God. But the fact that that's always been my worst fear. Like if I do a past life regression, what if I was a bad person, which, you know, we've all had to learn. We've all had learning curves and we've all had tests that we failed and tests that we've, you know, succeeded at. And I just love, and I haven't really told him this. He's 13 now, but I haven't really told him because I don't know. Again, I think I don't want him. Anyway, I haven't told him, but I just think it's such a beautiful thing that we chose this one to like be in a loving relationship. And I maybe am making up for some karmic tie or whatever, but oh my gosh, I love him so much. And he really is the light. And I definitely believe that. And he was only a baby when she said it, but he really is just so kind and unassuming and gentle and funny and all those things. But yeah, that's really weird that you said that.
Well, if people truly understand the fundamentals behind reincarnation and why we continue to come back and what we're here to do, it would make sense that that would happen.
Yes.
To bring more love into the planet, to bring more evolution and growth for the both of you, for the karma healing, for all of it.
Yeah.
And I do recognize the vulnerability in sharing that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
But it is real. We have all been in lifetimes where we have murdered, we have done people wrong, we have been the abusers. You know, there's some schools of thought out there. I'd be curious to know if you want to share on this or not, but there's some schools of thought that we choose to come in as abusers. We can choose bad things that happen to us for the sake of understanding things. I'm kind of on the fence of it. I don't know from a trauma perspective how much I really truly love that idea, but I'm open to it. You know, I'm always open to this stuff.
I actually do have quite a bit to say. And if anybody's listening and disagrees, please, everything I have to say is a la carte. Take what you want, leave the rest. I promise you, you don't have to subscribe to everything that I do. However, I grew up in an extremely traumatic household. I think that's part of the reason I feel so much for people. And I think that that's not a new thing. People who have experienced trauma and have had to grow up really fast, it's a byproduct. So yay, I guess, but extremely traumatic, dysfunctional, unsafe. And never really felt, I mean, I guess that's not true. I can't say that I never felt like a victim, but when I learned, okay, so Michael Newton's book teaches that we do choose when to come in, who to come in with, the lessons that we're meant to learn, what our body's going to look like for the most part. Once I kind of got the understanding that my soul knew better than me and my soul had a plan and I'm going to make my life amazing. I think the question becomes, if your soul knew better, if you could believe that your soul knew better, what would you be able to then release, accept, forgive yourself for, forgive others for? Because I do 100% in my situation, I believe that I chose that life. I know I did. Because I just know I did. And if I hadn't experienced that, I don't know who that person is that didn't experience that. And I like who this person is, even with all of that mess. I like me and I like hanging out with me. And I like that I was able to not only survive it, but use my experience to help other people. You're gonna make me cry. Don't do it. Don't you look at me like that. But you do you know what I'm saying? Like, we'll just hide. Not only can you survive it, but you can use it as a stepping stone rather than a crutch. Now, I have family members who have used it as a crutch and not a stepping stone. Like, they will always use it as a crutch, and that is their path. I would never deny someone of their own path. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not even my own kids. There are things that I would love to help them with and love to guide them with, but in the end, at some point you have to accept that they're going to be their own people, and they should. What else are we here to do? Now, do we choose all the bad? No, because there's free will for everybody, and everyone else has their own lessons. So I was told once that my experiences as a kid was not so much about me learning lessons, but about me helping others learn their lessons. And that was extremely powerful for me. I don't know if anyone else needs to hear that. Sometimes it's not about you learning lessons. It's about you being that volunteer to help others learn theirs. And I do think it's a volunteer situation, but also there is free will, and there are people who don't learn their lessons and choose to be low vibe and hurt and take. And, I do think that no matter what we go through, there is a nugget of gold in there, and you owe it to yourself to look for it. You've earned it. Like, even if it's a big pile of shit, but there's one nugget of gold in there. You have earned that tiny morsel. And so you need to claim it, no matter what that is.
Preach. I got nothing to say except fucking preach. Hey everyone, it's Kat from the podcast with a little break in today's episode to share with you a really exciting offering I have called the Age Mapping 3-Day Mini Course. In just 3 days, we'll uncover the stories hidden in your family's past. By mapping the ages of key moments of trauma within your lineage, you'll begin to see how those moments could still be influencing your life today at those same ages. On day 1, you'll experience my powerful ancestral subconscious meditation. On day 2, we'll dive into the age mapping exercise. And lastly, on day 3, you'll geek out with me on the topic of epigenetics, which can explain the way that trauma is passed down generation after generation. The entire workshop is only $35. Are you ready to dive into your ancestral stories and heal for good? Go to katdow.com/agemap or visit the link in the show notes below. Your transformation starts with understanding your past right now. It reminds me of a past life regression I did was it 2 years ago when I had just moved to Denver. And I found this woman on Google. I just typed like past life regression. My really good friend Dana in San Diego did my very first past life regression on me. And I ended up channeling Mother Mary, Joan of Arc. It was like my kids, like it was really, really, really intense. Yeah, it was really intense. I like the floodgates opened and my higher self was like, I've been waiting for this shit for a long time. But I did a more low key one last year around my body because I had an eating disorder for 12 years on and off. I've always struggled with my body image. I've always struggled with body dysmorphia, comparison. And I was also at that time starting to feel really sick all the time and not really understanding why. It would then be 2 years later, AKA in January of this year, that I got diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, Hashimoto's, SIBO, H. pylori, MCAS, POTS, like a bunch of autoimmune stuff. And so I wanted to understand why I chose this body if I struggle with it so much. I even did a podcast episode about it. And in that, my guides were not really talking about my body that much. We went into a past life where my fiance was my dad in a past life, and we wanted to reconnect, and I died being pushed off of a boat. And I died on an island, and it was all these people. And I was like, whoa. I mean, it was wild how much I dropped into it. But at the end of that past life regression, my main guide that I work with, he came forward and I wanted to know, the facilitator said, can you give us any guidance on Catherine's body? She's here and she wants to understand. And I felt him kind of like, I was in this white place and it was like very ethereal and like heavenly. And I felt him kind of, and then he turned around and I saw him walk towards a group of my other guides and my council. And he was I could feel them chatting and whispering and talking to each other. And then I could feel that they were deciding, do I tell her or not?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to tell her what's going on? Oh, I'm getting emotional for some reason. I just love connecting with them. Their energy is just so loving. So anyways, he comes back and he says, in one of your first lifetimes, it was like prehistoric-ish times. It looked like very caveman prehistoric. Someone in your life who's very important to you right now murdered you when you were a baby. They had you as a child. They murdered you as a baby. They suffocated you to death. They couldn't take care of you. They were your mother in that lifetime. And that your soul learned that your body isn't safe to be in. So you've been choosing all these bodies to be in to learn that your body is safe, and you still haven't figured it out. And then they were showing me like a movie, all of these lifetimes, a soldier, a prostitute, like all these different lifetimes where my body was the vessel for safety, security, like all of the things. And then it was in this lifetime that I inherited all of this autoimmune stuff. And the challenge is, are you going to learn to love your body regardless of the body that you're in? Or are you going to choose?
Shit.
Yeah.
Can we say shit?
So when I experienced that, I was like, I need to get my shit together. I need to learn to love my body. I'm not going to be afraid of these things anymore. And it's been a long journey, but getting the Epstein-Barr diagnosis was an answer to a lot of things. But yeah, I don't know why I felt the need to bring that up, but what you were talking about really reminded me of that for some reason.
Well, and it also speaks to like, do we choose it or not? I think when it comes to your stuff, I think we do. When it comes to things that are inflicted on you, maybe we do. Like, I think in my case, I did, because I knew the people I was going to be mixing myself in with when I came to this planet. But dealing with any kind of family system where somebody has mental illness or addiction or drug use or abuse of any kind, it's a wild card, because as anyone who's experienced this knows, you don't know what to expect from day to day. And that's a very harsh way to grow up and try to figure out the environment around you. So I'm not going to say cut or dry. I think we'd be very egotistical to think we knew everything, which I think no one who really is authentic could ever know. We just can't. And I love that I don't, because that just means there's more to learn. And I dig it. I'm here for it. Now, I can only speak to my experience. Now, if anybody listening has a different experience, then own it. It's completely valid, and that's completely yours. But I think Kat's story, like the way that you said, am I going to love it regardless? Like, that's so powerful. And not everybody's ready to hear stuff like that. So again, everybody's on their own path. I think that I'm still learning. Oh my gosh, I have so much to learn still. But yeah, I think it just speaks to, do we have a choice or not? Yes, we do. And there's also free will for everyone else. So it's how we navigate that, I think, that really moves us forward.
1,000,000%. I always say that our families are in service to us in every single way.
Right.
And working on your family system through the subconscious, through things like hypnosis, through family constellation therapy, through parts work, through all these different modalities that we've been gifted on earth to use, they just help us uncover and unlayer. I used to be the kind of person that wanted to heal it all in one lifetime. And after doing past life regression, I really woke up to the idea that you still got a few lives to go.
Imagine if it was just a one and done. Here. You're like, that's cool, I'm good. I grew up with my dad always saying, like, I'm never coming back. I'm getting too old for this. This is my last life. Oh, my dad's such a hippie.
I love it. I do think it's interesting, his fear of like, be careful what you ask for. And yet here you are totally opening the floodgate.
Like, sorry, Dad, I'm doing it. You tell me not to do something, I'm going to do it.
I love it. Well, tell us a little bit about, I'm curious for myself. I have this meditation called the Ancestral Subconscious Meditation. It's something that I created for people to meet their ancestors in a specific room. They go through like the elevator, the stairs. Like, I'm not a professional hypnotist or hypnotherapist, but I created it and I've done it many times. And I usually hold it in group settings, but it's a way for people to access their family systems and meet with their family and get messages. And truthfully, I've never really understood the science behind it. I just know it works. So I would love if you could take us through the science behind how you how in order to get to the superconscious, you have to go through the subconscious.
Okay. First of all, we're best friends now because I am a genealogist and I am obsessed. I do ancestral work. I do healing. I literally have on my desk ancestors and angels. This is one of 5 decks I have for ancestors. I'm obsessed with ancestors. And so that's why I want to do family constellations. This is not an accident. This was a divine meeting for sure.
Yeah.
I have a meeting your ancestors hypnosis that I created for an event that I did. Like I'm about it.
We need to talk after this.
Yeah, we do to have so many more conversations. Anyway, the science behind any hypnosis, I'm going to just go with this. So it can be meeting your ancestors. It can be fighting a dinosaur, whatever the hypnosis is, the reason that it's so powerful. If I can explain it I'm going to explain it from birth. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, please.
I think this is the easiest way that I kind of have come to explain how the subconscious gets formed. But if you can just imagine that when a baby's born, their mind is a circle. I know the brain and the mind are different. Just go with it. A circle. Okay. So it's completely open. And as you go through life, first of all, the only things that a baby has are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's it. And the lizard brain, which fight or flight, which gets triggered by those 2 things, loud noises and falling. So everything else is a learned behavior, except of course for your blinking, your digestion, and all those automatic things that have to happen. Imagine if you had to think about blinking or digesting your food. That'd be ridiculous. So the only actual fears you have are those. So as you're going through life, you're picking up all these truths, these knowns about you. Like, I love chocolate and I don't like asparagus, and I love getting hugs and kisses, but I don't like getting in trouble. That kind of thing that a child would pick up on. The sky is blue, that sort of thing. These are known truths. And as you're going through life and absorbing all this information, you have nothing to really contradict it. If I wanted to teach my kids that blue was green, they'd believe me because they have nothing to go against that. Now, once you hit around 7 to 9, it's variable, but 7 to 9, you get what's called a critical filter, which separates the newly formed conscious from the subconscious. Now, the subconscious is everything you've created in that little gift pack up until now. And the conscious mind holds your logic, reasoning, decision-making skills, willpower, analytical skills, all that sort of thing. And that's about 5 to 10% of your mind. I know most of you have heard this before, that we're not utilizing the rest, like our whole mind. And that's true, and it isn't. We are using our mind. It's just not consciously. Like, we're not consciously doing it. I don't have to remember how to speak every time I talk, but I do have to choose the words. So they're both working together almost all the time. Now, when you have an idea, let's say, I want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 million. That seems really fun. Or I want to do hypnotherapy. Oh, that's really fun. That sounds like a great idea. It will start in the conscious mind. It will go to the critical filter and check, which then checks in with the subconscious. And if there's anything in your subconscious that goes against that thought, like, well, you want to do hypnotherapy, but you are a mom now, so you should probably do something responsible because that's not safe. And that's the number one job of your subconscious, is to keep you safe, keep you alive, keep one foot in front of the other. Happy, successful, fulfilled, those are extra. But if it can get the basics based on what you've taught it, like having a 9 to 5 is responsible, which is what I thought at the time. It is stable. It is probably the thing that you should do. Now, if anything's in the subconscious that contradicts that goal, it will kick it right back out. And that's why it feels so hard sometimes to achieve a goal, because you're using 10% willpower, logic, reasoning, going up against 90%, it's going to win every time. So with hypnotherapy, I'm getting there. There's a few things I want to talk about before I get to like the ancestor part, because this is going to be so good. But what I do with hypnotherapy is I take your goal, like I want to make $1 million. I want the best relationship. I want, all of these things to happen for me. And we create a path through the critical filter, which means we get you to a state of receptivity, a state where you don't have the bodyguard outside waiting for a tip. Or you could say we do tip the bodyguard, and either way, we're getting in. We're getting into the subconscious to create new knowns that reflect who you are becoming, who you really are at your core, and creating new truths about you. And at the same time, transmuting those negative ones to make your subconscious feel safe, that these are things that are not only possible, but they're natural. It's a natural next step for you, and it's almost inevitable. Again, the subconscious is just trying to protect you. It's never trying to sabotage you. It doesn't hate you. It just learns things about you that it thinks will keep you safe, and anything outside of that is danger, danger, danger.
So can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing you say is, if you want to make $1 million, but between 0 and 9 years old, you were told that you're stupid or that you're not smart enough, or you grow up in a scarcity mindset, or your family doesn't make a lot of money, or whatever it is, those are the challenges that the bodyguard is protecting against. It's not necessarily maybe some of the more like detailed stuff. It's the more like root stuff that you saw. Okay.
Because every single human that's listening to this or will ever listen to this has those situations in their mind that they can recall where reality bent around them and around their beliefs. Yeah. They may be big bends, they may be small ones, they may be little subtle synchronicities, but reality will bend to fit what your subconscious believes is safe. The only reason anyone has ever achieved a goal is because the subconscious said, yep, green light, go, let's make it happen. Okay. And it is constantly churning out goals based on the truths that it knows about you. It always is. You are 100% successful at being exactly who you are based on your subconscious beliefs. You have never failed once. So if you could teach your subconscious what to believe, what then becomes possible? And that's where I love to play. That's my favorite place.
No, I've never heard it explained this way before. And it is so powerful because I was literally just thinking yesterday, this thing hasn't manifested for me. And I think it's because I have a subconscious belief about myself and I won't let myself be successful around this one thing. So maybe we should do a trade. I'll do an FCT for you. You help me with a little of this work.
I just want you to start channeling Mother Mary during a session. That would be fantastic. I would just be here for that.
We totally can. We totally can.
So to answer your question about like the answer, okay, so let's say we're doing a past life regression, or let's say we're doing an ancestral meeting or some kind of spirit guide meeting in hypnosis. The reason it's so powerful and it works is because when you get to that state of receptivity, you're open to the experience. Your imagination, the part of your brain that makes stuff up, is less active, and the part of your brain that just allows is more active. And so when you have an experience of meeting an ancestor, the other piece I really want to drive home to this is that if it happens in the subconscious, it happened. Which is why you cry at movies. Because if you're experiencing this and you're crying, there's some part of your body that believes that it's happening to you or that it's directly affecting you in some way. It's beyond empathy because these are fictitious people. This isn't something you're witnessing, but your body and mind believes that it is. It doesn't know fact from fiction. It doesn't know truth from lies. It doesn't know if you're just joking when you call yourself stupid. It doesn't. It believes you. So please be careful, people. Please. You are the most powerful voice in your world. I don't care who else you're listening to. Your subconscious listens to you the most. And it is the most potent, powerful spell you could put on your subconscious is what you tell it. Now, the thunder outside my window right now just confirmed everything I just said. Thank you, Thor. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now, again, it doesn't know fact from fiction. It doesn't know that what's happening isn't real. As far as it's concerned, if it's happening in the subconscious at that deep of a level, I guess we could say the superconscious as well, because I think subconscious is where all of your stuff is stored. Superconscious is where you can access higher wisdom, soul purpose, spirit guides, the spiritual stuff, I think is superconscious. And I kind of use them interchangeably as of now, but hopefully everybody can get on board with what I'm saying. If you're meeting your ancestors in a hypnosis journey and you feel like it's happening, your body knows that it happened. Your mind knows that it happened. And so it will become part of you. Like you'll never forget that past life regression. I have never forgotten any of mine because it happened at a cellular level for me that it's now just become a part of me. So when people ask me like, is past life regression really real? Or is this really real that I'm meeting my guides? I think it is. But I can't know for certain. What I do know is that you feel changed. Whatever ailment you had when you came in here is now gone, or at least very much diminished, and you feel healed and you feel happy and you feel empowered and excited. And that's what we're here for. So yes, and who cares? Because it works.
Hell yeah. Well, it's interesting because there have only been, like I said, I don't do FCTs in groups. I only do them one-on-one. So when people invite me to facilitate a workshop or a group, it's usually with the ancestral subconscious meditation and I'm guiding people through it. And then I do some mediumship after. And there's only been, I want to say 2 or 3 times where somebody comes to me after they do the meditation and they're like, I was just in a black room. I didn't meet a guide. I didn't get any information. Nothing happened to me. My brain wouldn't let me get into the meditation. And I learned very quickly after that that means that there are a lot of bodyguards protecting the subconscious, or that there's repressed memories that you are not able to see, or your body doesn't feel safe for you to see. Is that true? Like, how would you describe that if someone wasn't able to be hypnotized or go into the subconscious?
Well, this actually brings me to another really fun topic. We really could talk all day, but there's another really cool concept that a lot of people that I talk to don't know, which is subconscious suggestibility or subconscious language. When I meet you for the first session, I'm going to figure out how your mind takes in information so that I know how to speak to you. Most of my hypnosis in my membership and like the group that I do is going to cater to both types. Now, it's the same kind of, let me put it very simply. When you're thinking about affirmations, there are some people that can say, I am empowered, I am confident, I am, beautiful, whatever these things might be, and actually believe it. But the vast majority of people I've come into contact with, including me and probably you, would be like, that feels like wearing shoes that don't fit. It feels like I'm lying to myself. And that's because that's not how your mind takes in information. You're more of an inferential person. You're more of a read between the lines, probably an overthinker. You need to know how things, why, how, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What did you really mean by what you just said? Those are, probably, I don't want to say the majority of people, but the majority that I've come into contact with feel the same way as I do, which is you can't just say, I am. I would never have a client and assume that I could just say, your body is relaxed and assume that would work. Cause that would never work for me. I need you to make me feel comfortable. I need you to make me feel safe before I'm going to let you do any of that. Now, that's not to say that, however, this ancestor thing that you were doing was speaking to them in the wrong way, but it does bring up an interesting topic, which is like, maybe something was said that didn't allow them to fully let go. Because anytime, I've had issues getting someone to that space, it's because they are having an issue letting go and actually allowing the process, which could be for many reasons. It doesn't always mean repression in my experience, but it certainly could be part of it. By the way, instead of saying I am, what we would want to do is say I am becoming, I am open to, I am willing to, I am looking for evidence all around me of my confidence and beauty. I'm stepping more every day into confidence, blah, 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 blah.
I feel that more right here in my heart when you say that, because it's that subconscious imposter syndrome that comes in. Like, you're never going to be good enough. So if I say, I'm allowed to be free, my brain's like, no, you're not, bitch. You just fucking did that thing yesterday. You're absolutely not free. But I'm like, no, but I'm supposed. And I love Louise Hay's work. I love Louise Hay. Hay House is what got me into spirituality.
Yeah.
But sometimes my brain is like, you're a fraud if you're saying that that.
Okay. But what did we just learn? What is that? Does it hate you?
No, it's loving me because
it's loving you. Here's what's hard to understand, not for you, but I think it's hard for people to understand that, like, it is loving you. It is taking care of you in the best way it knows how. Something got lost in translation and it doesn't make sense anymore. The other thing is that your subconscious doesn't know expiration dates. So something that helped you stay small and it was a benefit for you to stay small and not show your full self, it has an expiration date, but your subconscious didn't get the memo. And so if it worked once, it's going to work forever, right? So that's why we have almost an obligation to ourselves to really sort out what isn't working anymore. What would I like to fix? What would I like to change? What would feel better? This does not feel good, and I want to feel good. So, I would say YOLO, but we know that's not true.
Yeah, it's absolutely not. Thanks a lot. This is fascinating. I love this conversation so much. I just feel like we could keep chatting about anything and everything under the sun. I guess my last question is, well, not last, one of the last ones is like, what are your thoughts on EFT or EMDR?
I just did EFT with a client today.
You did? Okay.
I love EFT.
You love it. So it works.
Yes, it works. It absolutely works.
Because of the acupressure points, because of the repetition. What about it?
I think it's two things. It's funny. I was literally just talking about this. I think it's two things. Yes, the acupressure, they're there for a reason. And I completely believe in acupuncture and acupressure because I've seen too many times. I've never done acupuncture. It kind of freaks me out, but I have seen so many times where people will have these huge emotional releases. The mind-body connection is not a joke. It is not fiction. It is a real thing that we are remembering more every day. And so emotions, static, gunky energies will get stored in the body, whether we know it or not. The body keeps the score. Remember, that book, The Body Keeps the Score? That's a hard one for me to read because of all the trauma, but I'm trying. I'm trying to get through it. It is definitely a good one. It makes perfect sense. Your body knows, even if you don't, your body knows. And so when you're able to go in with the intention of releasing any stuckness or gunkiness in the body, God, is it freeing. And it just makes you feel so good. And the meridians of the body are real. I always have clients take like 4 big sips of water because water is really good for conducting electricity. And that's what we're working with, energetics. And God, yeah, it works. It works. Also, the other piece that I think it works is because you can't be bored and afraid at the same time. You can't be bored and upset at the same time. I mean, I guess you could, but I have a client this is multiple, but this one in particular has a big fear of expansion in her success because she feels like she'll have to sacrifice or the cost will be too high or she'll lose out on her joy, that sort of thing. So there's a fear. Mm-hmm. And I told her, I was like, we're trying to bore you from this fear because you can't be afraid of something that's boring. So even if it's just do this every day until you're bored, then it's working too. So I do think it's both, but I love to say that little joke of like, we're just boring it out of you. We're rehearsing it until you're no longer afraid, because you can't be afraid of something that's stupid and boring.
Well, so then at what point is our subconscious connected to epigenetics and like ancestral fears? Is it because we hear it enough? Because in my work, I work on the idea of epigenetics, of what we physically inherit in our DNA, and that affects emotions as well. But then there's also the energetics of sometimes the family system, and that one's a little bit harder for people to understand. Yes, emotions are energetic in some capacity, but there are enmeshments and things that happen in family systems. So like at what point do you know that a client is inheriting or is living through or working through something ancestral?
I don't ever really know that that's what's happening. And it's kind of like with past life regression. Like I won't bring up the topic of past life regression unless everything else has been ruled out. Sometimes, unless they come to me like, I want to know, then I don't bring, yeah. And I hope that people do. Those are my dream clients. But if they don't, I don't ever say like, you should do a past life regression, because it may not be in their belief system, just like ancestral inheritance may not. To me, it's like, well, yeah, of course. And I've used it so much for myself. Like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. Literally today, before the podcast, oh my gosh, I got a message from somebody on WikiTree, which is one of the sites I use for genealogy. And he's like, thank God, after 60 years, I found someone. It made my heart so happy. He's like 87 years old. He's my second cousin 3 times removed. He found me through our family tree. And he's like, I knew your great great grandma. I knew her mom and the whole story behind, she married this guy, but then she got pregnant by this guy and like all this family drama, right? And I was just today being like, oh my God, I feel for her first son that thought this was his dad and it ended up not being his dad. And then she farmed him out and he was taken from his house screaming by 2 men because she needed the money for him to like go. And this was in like 1870 something. And I found my heart was just so broken for this child who got taken. He was like 10. He got taken from his house. And that, I think, that is ancestral work right there. When you can acknowledge those who came before you and heal, at least feel for that, because he never got that. His mom farmed him out. I guarantee it, the men that took him weren't compassionate. But if I can sit for 5 minutes and acknowledge him and be compassionate and hold him in my thoughts and mother him the way that I would mother my boys just in that minute, that is what we're doing. That is healing on so many levels, whether you can see it in real life or not, because he's been gone for decades, probably. Anyway, so it's just really funny. I was doing that right before this podcast. Then we start talking about ancestral stuff. But when you talk about like ancestral, you sing
some sparklers.
When you talk about healing lines and family systems and things like that, I think just those little moments, it doesn't have to be a big ceremony. Those are great. I love those. I do those. It can be, let me find out about this person. Let me acknowledge them. Let me vow to treat my line going forward with what they didn't get and needed. Yeah. And I think that is just extremely powerful too.
You would totally love FCT.
I think I'm made for it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because there are a lot of people, I will say that at least between 5 and 10 people in the beginning of my work doing this, now not so much, interestingly enough, but they would come to me and they would say, I have a past life with this, and I want to put it in the FCT. I want to stand on a paper that represents my past life, and I want to see if it's affecting my life today. And I've only ever done that twice, because my belief is that you have soulic DNA. And if you're going to heal it for you now, you're going to heal it for you 10 lifetimes ago, because obviously your soul chose this lifetime to deal with what wasn't healed from that lifetime. So it's all one. So anyways, yeah,
this is so interesting.
Yeah. We could talk for forever.
So much more to talk about too.
I know.
I hope they've enjoyed this as much as I have, honestly.
I have loved this. I would love to have you come back on anytime you want to talk about literally anything.
Literally anything. We can talk about future lives, in between lives. We can talk about soul agreements. We can talk about soul groups.
Oh, you're really speaking my language now. You're really speaking my language. I can't even tell you.
We can talk about dream therapy, because I know how to like help you interpret your own dreams so that you never need a dream book ever again. And you probably shouldn't anyway, because the symbols for them don't mean the same thing for you. So I can help you decode all of your crazy dreams. Not that you have crazy dreams, but I think everybody does, and figure that out. It's so much fun. Well, I can do handwriting analysis. I can teach you about your handwriting.
Okay, so thank you for listening to part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 coming soon. Oh my gosh. I know that people are just going to be itching to connect with you after this conversation. So please tell the listeners where they can find you, how they can connect with you. I think you have a podcast too, right? So where can they listen?
So thanks for sticking with me this long, guys. I know I kind of took us on a few tangents, but hopefully you had a good time. I can be found on Instagram, on TikTok, just my name, Lynnsey Robinson. I have a website, lynnseyrobinson.com. I have, oh my gosh, can I announce something that I haven't really talked about yet? Because I feel like this is a safe space, and I don't know when this is going to go out, so it might actually be relevant. Please. I am creating an app for my membership, and it's going to roll out probably in July or August. So if you're interested in dipping your toes into hypnosis and not really like committing to a full program, this is why I love this membership so much. I have categories like I do have a past life like toolkit that you can just walk through and get your whole soul's like journey, and you can meet your spirit guides. That I have a Mercury retrograde event. I do live events in there all the time, so it's just a really fun place to be. And you can check all that out. It's called Align Your Mind membership. So if the app's out, just search for it and you should find it. But either way, send me a message on any social media and I can help navigate you. Also, my podcast is called High Vibe in It. We do episodes we're more into like manifestation and spirituality and stuff like that. We have a co-host, and I've talked to her a couple times into having someone on to talk about aliens and like fantasy stuff, which is where I love to live. But it's more about manifestation, spirituality, and kind of just empowerment in general. But the spiritual stuff is what I'm here for. So you want more of that? Come find me, or, go to part 2 with Kat, because I'm ready.
It's happen. I'm ready. Well, thank you so much for just sharing your vulnerability, your knowledge, your wisdom. I'm just so excited. I'm going to go back and listen to this because I
think I am too. This was so good. This was so powerful.
Oh, well, thank you, Lynnsey.